Hello everyone, Joel here. So you've sunk hundreds of hours into Monster Hunter, you know the drill. Study the monster, craft the gear, get absolutely demolished on your first attempt. But here's the thing, what do you do when you've cleared everything and farmed every piece of armor? Because let's be honest, staring at the loading screen hoping new content magically appears is not a personality. So we put together 15 games that will scratch that exact itch. Some wear their Monster Hunter inspiration proudly on their sleeve, some take the core fantasy of hunting massive creatures and twist it into something completely their own, and a couple of them might genuinely surprise you with how deep they go. Whether you want faster combat, darker stories, robot dinosaurs, or the ability to literally recruit a lava monkey onto your team, this list has you covered. Before we go into the list, I want to give you my recommendation for some of the best deals in instant gaming right now, especially if you're tight on budget. We knew that instant gaming always give us so many crazy deals for your favorite games, like these titles for example. I mean, can you believe these prices? If you love RPGs, there's no way you never heard of these masterpieces, and to think that you can get them under $10 or even $5, it's an absolute steal. All you have to do is just click my link in the description below, start searching for your favorite games and use the activation code on your chosen platform. By using my link, you're not only saving tons of money, but also helping me to support this channel. Alright then, let's get back into the list. What if Monster Hunter and a Japanese carpenter had a baby? That's basically Wild Hearts in a nutshell. Developed by Omega Force and published by EA, this game throws you straight into feudal Japan, where the wildlife has apparently decided that being normal size was simply not ambitious enough. You're hunting massive elemental creatures called kimono, and yes, one of them is literally a giant lava monkey. The combat itself nails that sweet spot between I'm a tactical genius and why am I dead again, which Monster Hunter fans will feel deeply in their souls. What really makes Wild Hearts stand out though is its Karakuri system, letting you slap down structures mid-fight like walls, springs, and giant bombs, basically turning every battle into a creative chaos playground. It's fresher than your average MH clone, though the monster variety could use some serious work. Forget hunting monsters in a forest. What if your ship crash-landed on an entirely alien planet and every single creature there wanted you dead? Welcome to Phantasy Star Nova, where survival isn't just a mechanic, it's a lifestyle. Your weapons don't even work when you first arrive, which is honestly the game's way of saying good luck buddy. Built by Tri-Ace and published by Sega, this Vita exclusive takes the hunting formula and wraps it inside a genuinely compelling sci-fi story with mysteries worth uncovering. The real showstopper here are the Gigantes, absolutely colossal beings that tower over the entire map, armed with cannons, lasers, and what appears to be zero chill. Fighting them requires you to literally build floating platforms mid-air just to reach their weak points. You can also capture them and watch two skyscraper-sized monsters brawl each other. You know that friend who shows up to a party and isn't exactly the loudest person in the room, but somehow you always end up having a great time with them? That's Ragnarok Odyssey Ace. It's not trying to reinvent the wheel. It knows exactly what it is, and it commits to that fully. Based on the legendary Ragnarok online universe, this Vita title hands you 6 classes to choose from right off the bat, and the best part is you can swap between them freely whenever you're not on a mission. No permanent regret, no existential crisis over your build, just pure flexibility. The card system lifted straight from Ragnarok Online is genuinely brilliant, where monster drops translate into stackable buffs that can completely shift how your character performs in battle. The Tower of Yggdrasil also throws in 200 floors of randomly generated dungeons, which means the grind never quite runs out of tricks. Freedom Wars gives you a reason to exist, and apparently, existing is already a million-year crime. Set in a dystopian future where being born is literally illegal, you play as a sinner serving a 1 million-year prison sentence, fighting to earn your freedom by protecting your city's resources from colossal machines called abductors. The premise alone is wild enough to make you forget this started as a Vita game. Unlike Monster Hunter, where the goal is always to slay the beast, Freedom Wars throws a completely different priority at you. Rescue the hostages first and maybe kill the giant robot second. Combat moves at an almost disrespectful speed compared to most hunting games, with grappling hooks called thorns letting you swing, climb and latch directly onto enemies mid-fight. The remastered version smooths out the rougher edges with better controls and overhauled customization systems, making it far more accessible than before. Square Enix looked at Monster Hunter's success and said, "We want a piece of that." Lord of Apocalypse is their Vita-era answer to the hunting genre, wrapped in thick Lovecraftian horror aesthetics that make Soul Sacrifice fans feel right at home. Blood splatter, dark corridors, foreboding environments, this game absolutely commits to its gloomy identity. The weapon variety is genuinely solid, letting you swap freely between dual blades and giant pole arms whenever the situation demands it, each with their own separate experience pool to level up independently. But where it truly surprises you is the God of War style execution finishers on bosses, triggering cinematic QTE sequences that feel wildly out of place in the best possible way, because apparently just killing a monster wasn't dramatic enough. You can also summon creatures from defeated monsters like a twisted Final Fantasy callback, which adds a satisfying layer of experimentation to builds. What if you're playing Monster Hunter, but instead of hunting generic giant lizards, you hunted Bahamut, Ifrit, and Shiva instead? Well, that's exactly what this game does, and it's genuinely a fantastic concept. With over 20 classes and a dozen weapon types to mix and match, the build variety alone gives you plenty of reasons to keep coming back. The real cherry on top is the trance mechanic, where you can temporarily become iconic Final Fantasy characters like Cloud or Terra, and unleash their signature moves mid-hunt. Unfortunately, the difficulty curve is flatter than a pancake, with most bosses going down in a single hit even on modifier buff missions, which takes the wind out of the sails somewhat. Still, if you're a long-time Final Fantasy fan who always wanted to body slam Odin while wearing a monk's outfit, this is genuinely your game. If you're the type who thinks Monster Hunter feels a bit like a slow Sunday hike in heavy boots, then God Eater is about to be your new favorite espresso shot. Imagine the same gameplay loop, but crank the speed to 11 and swap the prehistoric vibes for a gritty post-apocalyptic anime where everyone is a professional edgelord. Instead of tracking footprints through a forest, you're dropping into ash-covered wastelands with a God Arc, a massive weapon that can literally transform from a jagged blade into a laser cannon mid-combo. The real kicker is the Devour mechanic. You can actually command your weapon to sprout a giant maw and take a literal bite out of the monster while it's still moving, which isn't just cool, it's how you enter burst mode to unleash absolute mayhem. While Monster Hunter is a game of patience and positioning, God Eater is a game of frantic aerial combat and engage systems that let you link up with your AI squad to share buffs. Combat missions are also refreshingly snappy, with some clocking in under 3 minutes, which makes it perfect when you want that monster hunting dopamine hit without a 2-hour commitment. Picture ancient Japan, except the demons aren't mythological bedtime stories anymore. Developed by Omega Force, the same studio behind Wild Hearts, this series puts you in the role of a slayer, tasked with hunting giant Oni and purifying their remains to free the souls trapped inside them. That purification mechanic is genuinely clever, adding a layer of spiritual weight to every kill that Monster Hunter simply never bothers with. What makes the series grow even more interesting is the Mitama system, where defeated enemies drop the souls of legendary historical and mythological Japanese figures, each granting unique abilities you can equip and level up. By the time Toukiden 2 arrived, the formula had expanded into a full open world alongside a demon hand, essentially a grappling hook that lets you yank yourself directly onto enemies for aerial attacks. For a series that started as a straightforward MH alternative, it evolved remarkably fast into something genuinely worth caring about. You might be thinking that Monster Hunter is just a bit too cheery and needs about 200% more body horror and existential dread. If that's so, then Soul Sacrifice Delta is your new favorite nightmare. Forget gathering honey and mushrooms. You start this game as a prisoner in a cage made of human bones. Your only friend is a talking, sarcastic book named Libram that lets you relive the memories of past hunters to gain power. Instead of traditional weapons, you use offerings, literal spells where you might summon a giant flaming fist or turn your own skin into stone. But here's the twist, everything has a price. To pull off a black rite, you might have to literally sacrifice your own eyes or skin, leaving you with a permanent debuff until you pay up. The game swaps out capturing for a brutal moral choice. Do you save the fallen monster, which was once a human corrupted by greed to boost your defense, or do you sacrifice them to boost your raw power? It's a dark, twisted take on the genre where even the bosses are based on tragic fairy tales. What happens when the co-creator of Dragon Age decides to make a monster hunting game but refuses to follow any of the rules? You get Eternal Strands, a debut title from Yellow Brick Games that is equal parts brilliant and gloriously chaotic. The premise is straightforward enough, a group of magic-wielding weavers trying to reclaim their lost homeland. But then the game hands you fire, ice, and telekinetic powers simultaneously, and suddenly you're setting entire forests ablaze, freezing enemies solid before lobbing boulders at them, and accidentally launching yourself off a cliff in the process. The giant creature encounters are where Monster Hunter fans will feel most at home, massive beasts roaming the open levels that you physically climb Shadow of the Colossus style, hanging on for dear life while hacking away at specific weak points. Defeating them repeatedly under different conditions unlocks new powers, which gives the grind actual purpose beyond just better armor numbers. The world design is genuinely stunning too, with levels wide enough to get properly lost in. So you love Monster Hunter, but secretly wish you could just keep the Rathalos instead of carving it up for armor parts. Monster Hunter Stories is the official turn-based RPG spin-off where you play as a rider rather than a hunter, sneaking into monster dens, stealing eggs, and raising the babies as your personal battle companions called Monsties. Combat runs on a rock-paper-scissors system between power, speed, and technical attacks that sound simple on paper, but layers into something genuinely satisfying once boss fights start demanding actual strategy. Each Monstie also carries unique traversal abilities. Some climb vines, some fly, some swim, turning the open world into an ongoing puzzle of which creature fits which path. The gene system adds further depth by letting you splice abilities between monsters, building custom combinations that make every team feel personal.
We're dead too if you don't fight!
Horizon Zero Dawn is technically an open-world action RPG, but Monster Hunter fans will feel an immediate familiarity the moment they realize every single encounter demands you study your target before engaging. Each of the 26 machine species carries distinct weak points, behavioral patterns, and elemental vulnerabilities that completely change how a fight unfolds. Shoot the cannon off a Ravager's back and suddenly you're wielding it against a Thunderjaw bearing down on you from across the field. That kind of improvised, high-stakes combat loop is pure Monster Hunter energy wrapped inside a gorgeous post-apocalyptic landscape. Beyond the fighting, you can also override machines mid-hunt, turning them into mounts or loyal combat allies. So instead of just surviving an encounter, you can end it with a personal robot army doing your bidding.
Now you're just a big dumb target. Come and get it!
Masaka. 7 years in development and multiple delays, Granblue Phantasy Relink successfully made everyone forget all of that baggage. On the surface, it looks like a colorful anime adventure about sky pirates, but underneath sits a combat system so deep and rewarding that veterans have accurately described mastering each of its 17 playable characters as learning a new weapon type in Monster Hunter. Every character controls completely differently, with their own movesets, skill trees, and sigil-based customization that lets you push their playstyle to absurd extremes. The boss encounters are where Monster Hunter fans will feel most at home though. Enormous creatures with breakable parts, elemental weaknesses, and stagger mechanics that reward aggression and smart targeting over button mashing. The multiplayer quest structure practically mirrors Monster Hunter's co-op loop too, with up to 4 players tackling increasingly brutal endgame hunts together. It's flashy, it's relentlessly fun, and the post-game content alone could swallow hundreds of hours without apologies. There's a moment in Dragon's Dogma where you're minding your own business on a road at night and suddenly a griffin lands in front of you. That unscripted, gloriously unhinged energy is exactly what makes this Capcom's cult RPG series unlike anything else on this list. Combat pulls from Monster Hunter's large creature fights, Shadow of the Colossus's climbing mechanics, and Devil May Cry's flashy action, then blends them into something that genuinely belongs to nobody else. Every giant encounter demands you physically grab, climb, and hack away at specific body parts while the beast thrashes to shake you loose, which scratches that Monster Hunter itch in a deeply satisfying way. The pawn system adds another layer entirely. AI companions that other players online have trained, carrying knowledge of monsters and routes they learned from their own playthroughs. It's an indirect multiplayer system so clever that it still feels fresh even today. You're supposed to be urgently tracking down a supernatural threat that could end the world. Instead, you just spent 4 hours helping a grieving farmer, investigating a haunted well, and losing badly at cards to a village drunk. The Witcher 3 is a game where the distractions are consistently better than the main quest, and where the world itself feels so genuinely alive that stopping to understand it becomes the actual point. You play as Geralt, a monster hunter for hire in a war-torn dark fantasy world, which already puts this squarely in familiar territory for Monster Hunter fans. The creature contracts scattered across the map are practically Monster Hunter missions by another name, tracking behavioral clues, identifying weaknesses, preparing accordingly, then executing a calculated fight against something that absolutely wants you dead. Alright boys, I think that's it for today. I know that there are other games that I haven't mentioned yet. So how about sharing your favorites that probably deserve the spot in the comment section below? Don't forget to like the video and make sure to subscribe the channel if you don't want to miss another great list. Thank you for watching and have a good day. Peace.
Short